You got a Bible? Somebody say, yeah, I got one. Have you got a telephone? Hold it up. All you got to do is download it. It's free. All you got to do is go download it, and you got it. Luke chapter 22, verse 39. I'm going to teach you one word this morning. Say one word. Did you know one word can change your life? Just one. Luke 22, 39, 4 verses right here. But then I'm going to use the whole Bible, front to back. Coming out, he went to the Mount of Olives, as he was accustomed. He'd been there before. And his disciples also followed him. They knew the way. And when he came to the place, they knew the destination. He said to them, pray that you may not enter into temptation. Obviously, some of them had. And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's throw, and he knelt down and prayed. Man, if Jesus, God himself, prayed to God himself, maybe we ought to try it. Saying, Father, if it is your will, take this cup away from me. Say, take it away. Take it away. Haven't you ever prayed that prayer? God, take it away. And don't look at your spouse. Have you ever prayed, God, take this thing away? If you just take it away, if you just deliver me from my... How many of you ever prayed God would deliver you from your choice? I just want you to know God cannot deliver you from what you keep choosing to do. A lot of you are praying for God to break your choice. No, he gave you a free will. Say with me, Lord, take this away from me. I'm not going to drink it. I don't want to drink it. Take it away from me. The word I want you to learn this morning is nevertheless. Say it out loud. Nevertheless. Now, I have a 7-year-old granddaughter, and she taught me a word a few years ago when I was doing something with wrestling. I said, I'm going to get you. And she goes, never. You know, when you say never to a 55-year-old grandpa, that's enough to get you tickled. Really is. Never. I know a lot of people are going through life going, never. I believe God can heal you. Never. I believe God can save you. Never. I believe God can change your life. Never. There are a lot of religious people running through America today going, never. Look at your neighbor and say, nevertheless. Even though this is difficult, hard, ugly, and painful, nevertheless, Lord, if it be thy will. I want to talk to you this morning about nevertheless, about a word that I think Americans need to use, a word that I think when it's rightly used and rightly owned can bring you into victory. A word that can pull down vain arguments, that can defeat the devils, can comfort the downtrodden. A word that in the midst of the garden, in the middle of the night, with an army coming your way, can prevail and cause you to go through victory. A word that if we could use it and properly, we would understand that in spite of the beatings and the thorns and the nails, Jesus chose the cross. He didn't choose the easy way out. He chose the most difficult thing in front of him. He chose you above and beyond his own suffering. He chose everyone in this room, no matter what it took, no what the suffering was, no matter how many jeers and words are spoken, no matter how many rocks. He put himself on the cross. They didn't put him on that cross. He humbled himself to death on a cross. He did it for you. No one did it to him. He surrendered and gave. He could have called angels, but he stayed put for you. Say, for me, if it wasn't for the cross. Nevertheless, that word is a bridge. It's a bridge between victory and defeat, life and death, heaven and hell. It's a word that opens up the impossible. It's a word that can change our lives. It's a word that we need to be using because he used it. It's a word that when Paul wrote to Timothy, he challenged them and chastised them in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 16. He said, profane and idle babblings. Have you ever listened to someone babble? Listen, I have grandchildren that do not speak English yet. They babble. They're the only babbler we're going to listen to. We ain't listening to you. If you can go to the bathroom on your own, you're supposed to be able to speak. And there's too many, he said, listen, they're going to be profane and idle babblings. The NIV version says godless chatter. There's a lot of godless chatter in the world. Have you heard any of it? Yeah. It's all over everybody. He said, I want you to avoid godless chatter. It will increase more and more, and its message will spread like cancer. Hymenaeus and Philetus, they are of this kind of people. Say with me, that stuff is going to get worse. You know, I want to give you a disclaimer. I know nothing about the Kardashians. Not a thing. In fact, I don't care about the Kardashians. Particularly Kim. I don't even, in fact, I don't, less than nothing. I was reading an article about Facebook, social media, and I ran across this article, and it references Kim, though. And it says that several years ago, she did a nude photo shoot for a mainstream magazine, and it dominated the digital world and social media and even the public media. It dominated it for days, and there were all kinds of things written about the unironic. Think about considering what this means to women and the media and to stars. And again, I could care less because as far as I know, she's never done anything, never going to do anything, and doesn't have the potential to ever do anything for that matter. This person has added nothing to your life, nor nothing to my life. But she's dominated the culture, and everybody's paying attention to it. But then this article goes on and says, the more viral a person or an event is, the more the culture will overestimate its importance. I think we got it on the screen. The more viral a person or an event is, the more the culture will overestimate its importance. It's called the Kardashian rule. It's called the Kardashian rule. They've begun to understand that your attention is being grabbed. Your attention, they're selling your attention. Your attention is an economic base. In fact, most people today are saying that the digital social media is more powerful than nations. You want to know why? Because it doesn't even have to be true, but they get your attention. And if they get your attention, they create a profile that determines what it is you want to see. And they block out every other opinion but the one that you like, and they feed it to you, just like this. They're selling you stuff. They're twisting your mind into believing that you're the only one that knows anything. And you're doing it. And you want them to fix Facebook, and I think it's you that needs fixed. I think you need to understand that you're not supposed to be paying attention to stuff that is godless and nothing but chatter. Are you listening to me? I have come to realize that people that I pray for every week go back and give their attention this afternoon to something on that thing, and it's godless. And everything that I have to say this morning gets lost in the noise and in the traffic that's out there. Are you listening to me? They are getting your attention, and they are selling it to the highest bidder. And we think Congress ought to fix it. Guess who could fix it? The church. But I'm not going to keep silent. Are you listening to me? I'm not going to keep silent. This is a social disease that is going to kill us, and Paul warned us. He said, nevertheless. Oh, keep reading here. Their message will increase. Nevertheless, the solid foundation of God will stand. Whew. He said, all that godless chatter going around will fail, but this will never fail. This will stand forever. If you build your life on the Word, if you build your life on the rock, it will never go away. Listen to me. The same device you're looking to pay attention to Kim Kardashian is the same device that will put you in the middle of this. You can take that tool in your hand and you can use the internet to feed your... Do you know you can push a button on your phone and it'll read it to you? It's an amazing thing. You can go to sleep listening to someone. You don't even have to know how to read. All you got to do is push that button on your phone. You can go through the Psalms in about 4 days. Just when you go take a shower, turn it on and let it. Do you want to know that if you saturate yourself in this, most of the issues that you're struggling with will be blown away by the power of His Word? Say with me, there's lots of godless chatter. Nevertheless, His Word will prevail. Oh, but Pastor, couldn't you just touch me? Yeah. Probably have. See, they're going to try to tell you that the resurrection is already over. Verse 18 says they're going to try to overthrow the faith. They're working at it. But nevertheless, touch your neighbor and say, nevertheless. That again, nevertheless. I'm going to stay in the Word. Nevertheless, it's nothing but the Word. Nevertheless, whatever the Word says is true. Nevertheless, God is who He says He is. I am who He says I am. I can do what He says I can do. It will never fail me. Say, nevertheless, His Word works. I ain't got one of you shouting yet. Not a one of you. I'm working at it. You know, there's this prophet by the name of Elijah, and then there was his counterpart, his apprentice by the name of Elisha, and Elisha followed Elijah for 20 or 30 years, and Elijah did all these great miracles, and then he decides he's going to catch a chariot to heaven, and so he's going from Gilgal to Bethel, and he crosses the Jordan, and he keeps trying to tell his apprentice, no, just stay here, just stay here, just stay here, and the apprentice Elisha said, no, I'm going where you're going, I'm going where you're going, I'm going to follow you, I'm going to do what you're doing, you're the dude, I'm after you, and they come up, and finally it's time to catch the chariot. You know, the chariot's going to take off at a certain time. If you're not paying attention, you'll miss the chariot, and you got to be there at a certain time to get on this chariot. Say with me, a chariot's the only way out. You want the chariot. You don't want the other way. You want the chariot. You want to get in what God provides so that you can get to the place He's designed for you. And if you don't get to the point where the chariot is coming, you might not get to the place. That's good theology. Anyway, and Elijah said, I'm going. What do you want? What do you want? Look at your neighbor and say, what do you want? And Elisha stood there and said, I want a double portion of whatever it is I've been following. Whatever it is that's in your life, I want twice as much as you had. I don't want to settle for just this. I want to be bigger and better and greater. I want to see God do more things than's ever been done previous. Listen, the best is not yesterday. I was there. All these people keep telling me about, man, it was wonderful. I was there. It ain't that good. Oh, you're not listening to me. Say with me, tomorrow. It's only. Stay focused, Quintin. If you think it's scrambled out there, you need to be in here. Tomorrow, what do you want? He said, I want a double portion. The prophet went, oh, I don't know, that's a bit much. You've asked a hard thing. When's the last time you asked God to do a hard thing? I'm just asking, when's the last time you asked God to do something that would blow your mind? When's the last time you just went to God and say, I want you to do something that is absolutely impossible for any human being to do, but I believe you can do it. I mean, I don't think God's in heaven going, well, I don't know. Maybe come back on Friday and I'll see how. Well, you know, I've given all I got to give this week. The funds are a little depleted. But you come back next week, we'll see what we can do. I don't think God's going, a cold, cancer. Well, this is easy, but I don't know about this. Who's it hard for? You've asked a hard thing. Who's it hard for? It's not God that it's hard for. It's hard for us to ask. It's hard for us to step out into public and reveal to everybody around us, my faith is in God. It's hard for us to go public and say, listen, I understand that my trust cannot be in this world. I have to go public and say, listen, I'm believing God to get me to heaven. Not me. I'm believing God to heal my body. I'm believing God to do this. I'm just going to go public. I'm asking you to do the absolute most difficult thing in. You've asked a hard thing. Nevertheless. It doesn't matter how hard this thing is. Nevertheless. Say with me, nevertheless. In spite of the godless chatter, in spite of how hard it is, nevertheless, God's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He'll never leave me. He'll never forsake me. I can ask God to do a difficult thing. Solomon asked for wisdom. Jabez asked for a blessing. Caleb was 85 when he asked for another blessing. And Elisha's going, I want twice as much. Touch your neighbor and say, I'll take yours if you don't want it. If you see me. If you see me. Listen to me, charismatic Pentecostals. Listen to me. You get your eyes on the gifts and you forget the God that gives them. You get your eyes on all the stuff that's happening and you think that's cool and you want to do the stuff that is cool, and you've forgotten to keep your eye on the master of the miracles. The miracles are cool, but it's the master we're following. Anybody in this room, or am I just talking to myself? Say, put your eyes. Put your eyes in there's nothing too hard for the Lord. Nothing. Say, nevertheless. David was trying to take Jerusalem, and they shouted down and said, listen, our sick people can take care of you. David was trying to get to Jerusalem. He was in Hebron, but he was going to Jerusalem. He'd been fighting Philistines for 20 years. And he said, I want to go to the mountain and put the city there. And the enemy goes, we'll just send the blind and the lame. You know, whenever the enemy gets a stronghold in our life, the enemy gets emboldened to look at us and said, ain't nothing you can do to get this stronghold out of your life. Your meemaw was like that. Your mama was like that. So you're going to be like that. Are you listening to me? See, we get this idea in our head that we are always tied to our past. Listen, you are not in bondage to your past. You're not in bondage to your mama's past. You're not in bondage to your meemaw's past. You hear me? It's over. When Jesus comes, He breaks the chains of yesterday. He breaks the chains. You can, say with me, I'm moving up. I'm moving up. If He says that's my city, I'm going to take that city. That stronghold is going to be broken in my life. You can keep sending me the blind and the lame, but I got new. Say, nevertheless, I'm going up. I mean, David understood how to do that. He said, I don't care how tall he is. He's going down. I don't care how big he is. I don't care how tall that mountain is. My faith is in the name of the Lord. You have come to me, but I'm coming to you. You need to understand. Nevertheless, no matter how it looks, no matter how much chatter it is, no matter how hard it is, no matter how high it is. I could go on and on today. You do know that, right? There's a verse over in 2 Corinthians where Paul is saying, listen, we were nearly dead. We were cast down. We were being torn up on the inside and torn up on the outside, but God comforted us with the coming of Titus. You can be going through suffering stuff, but God will comfort you in the middle of it. He said, in spite of the afflictions and the anguish and the shortcomings and all of that, in spite of that, we were comforted. I don't know what you're going through, what pain you're experiencing this morning, but nevertheless, God's going to comfort you in the middle of it. He's going to bring comfort to you. Listen, I and my family have just walked through something. We had to believe God for comfort every moment of the way. God has done a miracle, but I got to tell you, it was discomforting in the process. It was very uncomfortable in the process. And we had to believe God to comfort us. And He said, we were comforted by Titus. Say Titus. Comfort comes through the relationships of the people that you surrender your life to. I know you can stand there and say, oh, God, just comfort me. And you can go in your closet, but I got news for you. I had a daughter. She was scared of the dark. And Ashley was I love you. She's in her 30s. She still won't like me telling this story. And she's downstairs. She's crying. And we were in the bedroom upstairs. She's always whining about butter or something. And she's going to slap me. Yeah. I went downstairs and opened the door. And I said, baby, what's the matter? And she said, there's something in the corner. I said, honey, there's nothing in the corner. She said, yeah, Daddy, there's something in the corner. I turned the light. I said, honey, there's nothing in the corner. I said, Jesus is here. It's all right. Jesus is here. Now let's turn the light off and go to sleep. She said, Daddy. I said, what? She said, I need a Jesus with skin. That was profound. So Daddy caved. And Daddy got up in the bed and put his arms around her. She fell asleep. Hutchinson was born a week ago Wednesday. We weren't expecting to be able to hold him. And pretty soon they called Grandma and Grandpa back in there, and Heather's holding that baby right up here. I posted a picture of it on that ugly thing. It's easy to preach. It's hard to let go of, isn't it? And she's got this baby, and that baby's laying right there. And the doctor's standing there and saying, the best thing we can do for that baby is give that baby skin time. that baby will get stronger. That baby can have skin time. And that baby was there a couple hours, skin time. And all the time I'm remembering Ashley and I'm remembering all this. And I'm going, oh, FaceTime will never take the place of skin time. Amen. Never, 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 never. You need relationships. And I'm not talking about something on social media. I'm talking about people that know how to get close to you and get their hands on you. I'm talking about somebody that can walk up and lay their hands on you. There's a reason why he said you lay hands on the sick and the sick will recover, because you need face time or skin time. Are you listening to me? Hey, hold on. I don't want you to applaud yet. You listen to me. See that person next to you? You need to know their name. See the person behind you? The power of this church is certainly not my preaching. I can't figure out why anybody listens to me twice. I'm serious. The power of this church is the ability to create friendships, the ability to deliver a meal, the ability to know one another's story. Don't you run out of here in a few minutes. You stand here until you know somebody else's story. I get your stories confused. If it wasn't for Annie, I wouldn't remember any of your names. Annie goes, no, that's not Bill, that's Bob. I said, oh, I called him Bill. But all the time I was listening to Bill, I love Bill. Maybe his name is Bob, but I'm listening. Are you listening to me? I made up my mind a long time ago. I might not know your name, but I'm going to be in front of you and I'm going to be listening to your story. She walked in this morning. She said, you sent me a note. And I said, yeah, I did. She said, you wanted to talk. And I said, yeah, I do, because I want to know who you are. Right? Just happened. I said, I want to know who you are. Tell me your story. What can I pray for you for? Now listen, that's not my job. That's my life. Don't you say, oh, we pay pastor to do that. Look, you want the power of God to work in your life? Make a few friends in here. And listen, this church is growing. There's new people coming. You don't know them. But find out. Some of their stories are really cool. We were going through bad stuff, but we were comforted by Titus. Listen, there's always going to be stuff going on in your life, and you're going to need someone to come and hold your hand. The reason I've stayed in one city all my life is because I have trouble remembering your names. What if I went to another church and another church and another church? I would be so confused. You're looking at me like I'm making it up. I wanted to go to New Zealand. Say, nevertheless. I got to hurry. If you got a Bible, go to Psalm 106. Psalm 106 is the psalmist who is recanting in prose the story of the deliverance of the people of Israel out of Egypt and how they followed Moses across the wilderness for 40 years. And you know, some of them people were silly. Some of them people built a golden calf and worshiped that. Some of them got mad because they didn't like Moses and wanted another leader. They did all kinds of stuff. And I don't have time to read all of it to you, but 106, verse 6, we've sinned against our fathers. We've committed iniquity. We've done wickedly. Our fathers in Egypt did not understand your wonders. They did not remember the multitude of your mercies. They rebelled by the sea. Nevertheless, He saved them. Did you know that in spite of our sin, He saves us? That in spite of our rebellious nature and our forgetfulness, He saves us? That in spite of us refusing to worship and to be at wonder about Him, He saves us. Not because we're good worshipers, not because we get it all together, not because we get all the theology together, but because of His amazing grace, He saves us. Boy, you would think if you read the first 6, 7 verses down to the 8th verse, wow, He saved them in spite of it. But if you keep reading, it says they soon forgot again. They did not wait on His counsel. They lusted, they tested, they envied. They made a golden calf and worshiped it. They forgot the God, their Savior, and despised what He did, didn't believe His word, murmured, worshiped Baal, provoked Moses, learned the sins of nations, served idols, shed the blood of their sons and daughters. Verse 44, nevertheless, He regarded their affliction and saved them again. Do you understand that in spite of all we do and we continue to do and we repeat it again, He saves us. Did you know I'm here this morning preaching to you because He nevertheless loves me in spite of me? I'm just overwhelmed by the reality that no matter what is going on or what is happening, what the chatter is, what the challenge is, or what the need of comfort I have, nevertheless, He shows up and gives it to me. Listen, I'm preaching everything I got this morning, using every word I got to get your attention. Have I got it? Yep. I'm trying to get you out of Facebook into God's time. I'm trying to pull you out of a world. Listen, salvation isn't just about believing in Jesus. Salvation is about coming out of darkness into a different kingdom, into a different way, into a new creation. Listen, we need to break our ties to the stuff that pulls us back into that darkness. And we need to come up to a higher place, and we need to understand. Am I making sense to you? I realize the culture is strong, but nevertheless, the kingdom of God is here today, and we can get out of that stuff. We can live as a separated, consecrated, set apart, different group of people. Listen, the greatest witness the church will have is if we let go of the trappings of the world and sit down on the throne of the kingdom of God and allow our lives to be dictated by the wonderful character and virtues of God. Notice how quiet it's getting in this place. I want to be victorious. I want to overcome. I want to rise above the chatter and rise to the challenge and be comforted in the midst of the sufferings. I want to see that because God knows how to save me in spite of me. It is the hope of all humanity, of all of us. When I look at John 16 and Jesus is about ready to take off and He goes, listen to me, I got to go away. It's time for me to go to the cross. It's time for me to die. It's time for me to ascend. It's time. It's time that walking with you will take on a different form, and I'm not going to be in the flesh, but I'm going to be in the flesh. I'm not going to be just in this body. I'm going to be in this body. I'm not just going to be in a singular manifestation of God. I'm going to be in a pluralistic reality where I am in the coming together in the unity of every human being believes in me. You don't hold God to yourself. It is through our relationships with one another that God sits down in us. And it's only in that community and in that communion of saints. And He goes, listen, it's to your advantage that I go away, because if I go away, I will send another one to you. He said, I'm leaving, but nevertheless, I'm coming to be in you. Listen, everything I'm speaking this morning will not manifest without a receptivity of the presence of Jesus Christ, which is a spiritual presence, which is realized in a community of people that have covenanted to be together. Say, nevertheless, we're going to be Spirit-filled, Spirit-led. We're going to be a movement of a relationship. Okay. I've got here. If you haven't turned or flipped or turned it on, go to Luke chapter 5. This is my big close. Luke chapter 5, verse 1. So it was, as the multitude pressed about Him to hear the word of God, that He stood by the Sea of Galilee, and He saw 2 boats standing by the lake. But fishermen had gone from them and were now washing their nets. Say nets. Say plural, nets. Then He got into one of the boats, which was Simon's, and asked him to put out a little from the land. And He sat down and taught the multitudes from the boat. And when He had stopped speaking, He said to Simon, launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch. But Simon answered and said to Him, Master, we've toiled all night and caught nothing. Nevertheless, at your word, I'll let down the net. The net. I want to close this morning by giving you this beautiful picture of this sea that I've been on several times. It's about 7 miles wide, 12 miles long. It's the most fertile area in all of Israel. It's in the area of Galilee. People come up from Jerusalem to vacation there because it's beautiful. And these fishermen know this lake. They understand this lake. They'd been out all night. They're coming in the morning because every good fisherman knows you catch the best at night. It's a little later in the morning. They might have been the last ones to be coming in. They had a couple boats there, so they'd stayed longer, and they'd had a fruitless night, but they were cleaning their nets, which means if you're cleaning your net, you're going to use it again tonight. So even though they had not been fruitful that night, they were coming back this night because they knew that they would catch a catch tonight. They weren't discouraged by the lack of a catch. They were just going to come back tonight and do it again. Say, do it again. And they're sitting there cleaning their nets when this carpenter would-be rabbi comes up and stands at the edge of the shore, and the multitudes are coming in, pressing against him. And as they press in, he kind of slips over and backs into one of the boats and lets it float out on the water. It says he sits down, he keeps teaching to the multitudes, and they keep cleaning their nets. In the midst of his teaching, he stops. He looks down at the other end of the boat, and he looks at Peter, and he goes, if you'll go out a little deeper, and if you let down your nets. Have you ever worked all night, got nothing? I mean, some of you have been believing God for years, and it hadn't worked, and you're cleaning your nets, and you're coming back, and now this carpenter who gave up carpentry to try to become a preacher, now he's trying to tell you how to fish. And you look at him, and you kind of raise an eyebrow, and I mean, at this moment, Pete still hasn't figured out who's in the boat. I want you to know that God has stepped into your boat, but most of you don't realize who's in the boat. They have a problem recognizing who's in the boat. It will happen later when they're going through a storm on the same sea, and they'll forget who it is that's asleep in the back of the boat. If you're not careful, you'll forget who's in your boat. You do understand he didn't need your boat. He didn't have to get in your boat. I mean, this dude could have just backed up on the water and stood there on the water and taught from the water. No. He didn't need your boat, but he got in your boat so that you could come to understand who's in your boat. Touch your neighbor and say, do you have a clue? Who's in your boat? I mean, the dude that created the fish are about to speak to the fish and tell him to get in your net. It's too late. The dude's tired, but nevertheless, say nevertheless. I mean, it might not look like it. It may not seem like I've been very successful, but my God is about to step in the middle of my boat and command a blessing on my life that I didn't even see coming because I was too busy cleaning. Say, nevertheless. In spite of my ignorance, in spite of the time, in spite of my failure, Jesus is going to step into my boat and look out because there's a supernatural manifestation of a carpenter, rabbi, son of God. Oh, you're. This is the point where you shout. This is the point when you realize, oh, there's somebody in my boat and I need to. Nevertheless. No matter the chatter, no matter the challenge, no matter the suffering that I need comforted in, no matter the failure of my life, I got a God that wants to get in my boat. Oh. You know, sometimes I get offended at stuff that comes out my mouth too. I have to go home and say, Jesus, you hurt my feelings. I just can't believe you said that. He said, I didn't say that. You said that. I said, no. Launch out. If you just go a little deeper. Just a little deeper. Come on, touch somebody, say, can I go a little deeper? Can I go a little further? Can I push you off? Can I push you over? Can I crowd you? Can I offend you? Can I get you beyond your assumptions? Could I get you out of the attention of an internet and get you into the attention of God? Can I kick you over? Listen, first time I ever preached, I went back to Lloyd Crane. Lloyd Crane said, did anybody get saved? I said, no. Did he make anybody mad? I said, no. He said, you might as well quit. I'd tell you to go talk to him, but he's dead. So. That old man ate frozen peas and a workout. I went to the school of Lloyd Crane. He sat in his old recliner that was broke on one side and kind of leaned like this. And he liked eating frozen peas. Should have been my first clue. And He was sick, and he was like 80 plus, and he was dying, and all the old maids, those people that, and they're around him, and they're praying for him, and they're, oh my God. And pretty soon, Brother Crane goes, stop! Just stop! Everybody stop. Waiting for some profound revelation. Remember this? Yeah. He said, Lord, if I had an old house that was in as bad shape as this old house, I'd either fix it up or tear it down. And if you're tearing down and moving out, I'm going with you. But make up your mind whether you're going to fix it or not. Every little old lady just, that old man lived another 10 years. Lived another 10 years. Embarrassed me time after time again. Say, go a little deeper. Say, preach it, Pastor. Go a little deeper. Look at your neighbor and say, he's in your boat. Whatever he says, you might want to listen. He's in. Have you ever told a kid to take out the trash and they went, I mean, seriously, you ever told a kid to take out the trash? Pull the sack, drag the sack. They look like lioness dragging a sack. Have you ever stood at the door and watched him walk back? You'd have thought it's either Stephen or Nicholas or both. I remember walking in the door one day, and I just went, nevertheless, at your word, I'll put this net in, but I ain't putting everything I got in. I'll drop down this one net. I'll put this little bit, okay. That begrudgingly obedient attitude. Nevertheless, I'll put one net in. Well, I don't believe in that spirit stuff, but I don't believe in that confession stuff, but okay, by his stripes, I think maybe, well, I don't even know, but boy, I'm sure glad that God doesn't reward us by our enthusiasm. If enthusiasm was a requirement, Pete would still be a broke fisherman. Dumps his net over the side. I bet he was going, I bet he was rolling his eyes. Some of you are going to be so surprised by the supernatural, it's going to almost drag you off of the boat. Some of you, God's going to do something, and it's almost going to get out of your hand because you were too busy rolling your eyes and huffing about what he told you to do. And suddenly the net got full. And Pete had to call for help. Are you listening to this little prophet? The supernatural God's about to break in your life so much that you're going to have to call friends to help you get in what he's generously given to you. The supernatural God is about to come upon people that are unthankful, unenthusiastic, who are actually disregarding. He's not going to do the supernatural in people that are really enthusiastic, though he is going to do that. He's going to do it in people that, in my opinion, I wouldn't have given them the time of day. But God's going to do stuff in people's lives just by the simple little bit, just a tad of obedience. And we're going to be standing back going, oh my God, are you listening to me? 2018 is the year of the supernatural restoration. And in spite of your ignorance of knowing who is in your boat, and in spite of the lack of enthusiasm, God's about to do something to you, not for you. It ain't even going to be for you. It's going to be able to reveal to the multitudes that the dude that's been speaking really is the Son of God. Do you understand that all of this took place with multitudes standing on the shore watching just a few feet away? And the manifestation of the miracle in the life of Peter to catch these fish was proof to everybody standing up there on the shore that Jesus is who he says he is. God's going to do miracles in your life, not even for you. He's going to do miracles in spite of you, because the multitude needs to know that the dude that's been speaking is the dude that is the Son of God. Are you listening to me? So while you're focused on trying to get the supernatural, maybe you ought to stop and just see who's in your boat. Maybe you ought to stop and just pay attention to who sat down at the end of the boat. Am I making any sense? For some of you, he's been sitting in your boat for 30 years. You know he's Jesus. You know he's the Son of God. For some of you, it was a while ago. It was just a moment ago when I said something about, hey, and Jesus just stepped back into your boat. I'm telling you, look around. Look at the other end of your life. There's somebody in your boat. The Word that became flesh has gotten in your life. He's going to ask you to drop a net. Hey, to all you super duper theological, well-balanced Christians, drop every net. Drop every net. Listen, drop every net. I'm telling you this to you. You're saved, you're sanctified, you're on your way to heaven, you've never sinned in the last 30 years. Drop every net. You're nearly petrified. Drop every net. Come on, touch your neighbor and say, I know you don't need the other stuff, but you need this. Get every net in the water. I mean, if one net would bless the other people, how many would a multitude of nets bless? I mean, if it was me, I think I'd stand up and start kicking nets. Here. Just keep. Whoa. This is going to sound arrogant to some of you, but it's what I was told to say. I'm the dummy that only dropped one net. But I'm here to tell you, the water's full of fish. In the middle of my moment, listen, in the middle of my moment, throw your net out. God has just done miracles in my family. Throw your net out. God has just done supernatural. Throw your net out. Even if you don't feel it, even if you can't hear me saying it, listen to me. God's just done miracles and is doing miracles in my family and in our lives. Throw your net in the water. You may not have any faith. I do. Throw your net in the water. You may be waiting on the supernatural. You've got to hear me. I put a grandson in the ground, and 4 weeks later, the Lord spoke to me and said he's going to do supernatural. I was mad. I was mad. If he's going to do the supernatural, why didn't he say it 4 weeks ago? If I remained mad and bitter, I might have been facing a different situation. You need to hear me. In spite of how it looks, drop the net in the water. Your life and somebody else's may depend on it. Do not get caught on the past. Look at this moment. Put your net in the water. I don't know how else to say that to you. This is it. Church, we're going in. It's going to be fun.